So I'm going to start by ink blending the Clematis layering die set from Altenew. I'm going to just ink blend using these beautiful, beautiful purple inks. And I have a brush from Recollections, but I know Altenew also has some great brushes, and Gina K, a bunch of great brushes out there. I just happen to pick these up to see if I like them, and I do, so I keep these. But what I do is I just add a layer of the lightest color first to all the petals, making sure that they're not overlapping each other. And just go, I'm not super careful about the first layer. You can see my sticky mat isn't very sticky. I need to go in with some soap and water and just clean it up, I think. Or maybe it's time for a new one. They don't last forever. And I do use this all the time, so there's a little bit of color using the Celestial Mist. And now the Glacier Iris, I think, is one of my favorites from this set. It's a beautiful color. Sorry, I just hit my stand. And I'm gonna go, usually I do the middle of the flower, but I think I'm gonna go around the outside edges, the outer tips with the darker Glacier Iris. So I think I'll use my smaller purple brush, and I'm just gonna use the edge, and I'm gonna come in right where I just did those edges. And I'm gonna just brush very gently using the edge of my brush just to put a little bit of detail on there. It doesn't need to be perfect, and this is an alternate step that you certainly do not need to do, but it adds a little bit of extra detail to the flowers. It makes a little rippling effect in the flower petals. So if you do it kind of where the flower bends, where it looks like it might have a ripple to it, it just adds a nice little touch. For me, it's easier to go from the outside towards the center for this. But if it's easier for you to go the other way, you have to do whatever works for you. This is just the way I find is most helpful for me. And I'm using the same color because I don't really want it to look like a tiger stripe. Just a ripple, just a little bit of detail. And you can see I'm going fairly quickly. This one isn't so important that I need to spend a lot of time. And once it dries, you may not even really notice it a whole lot anyway, but some of the detail will still be there. So I finished up those little details, and they just add just a little tiny delicate edge to it. So I kind of like the way that looks. Now I'm going to go in with the Dreamy Periwinkle, and I'm going to do the centers so that the centers are a little bit darker. And I just take that and I start off the project and just blend in towards the center of the petal. I don't go all the way to the end. I just want this right in that bottom edge, or the center part here. And last but not least, I'm going to add just a touch of the Twilight Sky, also right to the center, just for a little bit of added shadow from where the petals will be. I might even come through and add just a little bit of this onto the edge. Let's see if we like that. Very gentle touch on this, because I don't want it to take away from what we already did. I think that looks pretty. I'm kind of following the same places. Oop, that one's a little dark. And I'm adding a little bit to these detail lines. So you could, if you wanted to, I was thinking about adding maybe a magenta instead of this dark purple, but I'm sticking with the purple for today. But who knows, maybe another time I'll add an accent color. Like if you were doing a yellow flower and put in some pink detail lines, that could be really pretty. And if you wanted to do this, you could also do it with colored pencils, or you could do it with alcohol markers. I just find for me, it's easier to just do it with the brush that I already have out. But you know, play with the materials that you have, and you can go a long way. So you can make a lot of flowers look different, look unique to yourself. But again, these are optional steps. These are not necessary. These are just to add a little bit of something, something. But you do not need to do this at all. They're beautiful. The way Altenew has designed them, they're beautiful just on their own. Now I'll use Limeade to come in and do these layers. And I'm just going to do them all the same. Oops, that one's a little delicate. Be gentle. And then I think I will use lime for these little centers. And there we have the flower petals ready to go. For the leaves, I'm going to do the same kind of technique. I'm just going to go through with my large blending brush, and I'm using lime for the base coat. Is it a coat? Base layer? And I want to get the tips of the lime showing, and then I'll come in with a darker color for the base of the leaves. So I'm starting with the lime green. And then I'll come in with, excuse me, fresh leaf. And here I'm gonna go just right up through the vein of the leaf, right through the middle, and excuse me, darken up that part. And to me, that is not enough contrast. So I will use reindeer moss and a little bit of a bigger blending brush. And I'm gonna go definitely get the stem darker, and then just the base of the leaves. As much or as little as you want. You just want to keep blending so you don't have a solid line across your leaf. And the best thing to do when you're blending is to start off of the paper, off of the cardstock, and blend onto the cardstock. Otherwise, you end up with a blotch, a round blotch from your brush. So you want to start by blending from off the edge of the cardstock and blending on. Some of these are a little too light. The good thing with the inks is that if you don't like it, you don't necessarily have to use a darker colored ink. You can just go over it again with the same color and it will darken it right up. But if you have other colors, feel free to add those in as well. So another step that you can do or not do, depending, is you can curve your flowers. I have these two, I forget what they're called, but they have the balls on the end. These are for shaping flowers. And what you can do is you're just pulling it to create a little bit of a bend. It's actually breaking the fibers of the paper to allow the paper to bend. So you can do this. If you want your flower to bend the other way, then you just do it on the back side. And then you would have a flower that curves, the leaves curve backwards. So this way, I think I want them to curve up. And depending on the size of this flower, the flower petal, you use whichever ball size works best for you. I know Alta Nu just came out with a new set. This one is from Wendy Vecchi. I've had this for a long time, but you need some sort of a foam to put it on. It just helps with the curvature. And again, this is an optional step. If you don't want a lot of dimension and you want your flowers to lay flat, you can have your flowers lay flat, or you could assemble them with foam squares or foam tape in between the layers if you want dimension but you don't want to curl them. Another way you can curl them is just use something round, a pencil or one of these or marker, and just roll the edges this way. You could just roll them in over there, or you could just squeeze them. So there are many, many ways to add some life to your flowers. So now to put them together, I'm going to grab my Bearly Arts glue with the fine tip, which is what I use for pretty much everything. I like to use my reverse tweezers while I am assembling. It just makes it easier to hold on to. So I'm going to start, if you've never used the keyhole system before, see Alta Nu has a keyhole system for their layering die sets. And each flower on this one, each flower is arranged in one plate. So you can tell that this is one flower because this has an arrow keyhole. And this one is the second flower. This one has a keyhole. So we know that all the keyholes go together and all the arrows go together to assemble each flower. They also have an etched in number. So this one is number 3. I know that's the third layer of the flower with the arrow. So I'm just going to put these together. The keyholes in one spot, the arrows in another. And then what I do, here's number 1. What I do is I pick this up, I just put glue on the back side of number 2, just right around the arrow. You don't need it anywhere else, just right around the arrow. And then you easily match up the arrows. And then I hold it just for a second, just to make sure it's going to stay put. And then I'll come in and find number 3. There's a tiny little number 3. And put that on there. If by chance you cannot see the number etched in, there is also a layering guide which will help you along the way. Sometimes it's really hard to see the numbers, but usually it's pretty clear. But if not, there's always a layering guide to help you out. And then number 4, same thing, I just put it right around the arrow. I find it easier to put the glue on the back. Other people put the glue right here, but I find, see, it kind of like covers up the arrow a little bit. And I find that if I put it on the top, it covers up the arrow even more. It's just a little bit harder for me to find the right direction. So now with these are just layered by size. So I can tell that this one's gonna go first. Oh, I forgot to curl these. These need to be curled too. This one just push down in the middle and go in a little circular way. You can do the little tentacles here if you want to. Just be very careful because they're very delicate. You might need a smaller one. Make them stand up a little bit more. And yes, once you put them in the envelope, they do flatten out a little bit, but it's fun to make them. Okay, back to assembly. See how easy this comes together? It's such a beautiful flower. So many of the Altenew flowers are gorgeous and they look so detailed, but they're usually pretty easy to put together. Some, of course, are harder than others. They have a little bit more detail, but for the most part, they're pretty easy to follow. Now this one, you don't even have to color this one. This one is basically just showing you where to put that last piece that will then cover up all of the arrow holes. So this one will go on here. And then this is the same shape. So it'll just go right around and cover up the arrow. And there we have our first flower. And then I'll do the second flower in exactly the same way.